On May 6, 2020, 3-year-old Dylan Ehler vanished from his grandmother's backyard in Truro, Nova Scotia. In mere minutes, a family's world was shattered, and a community was left grappling with an unsolved mystery that continues to haunt them. The official timeline begins at 1:15 p.m., when Dylan's grandmother was untangling the garden hose. She turned her back for what she estimates was less than a minute. When she looked back, Dylan was gone. The grandmother immediately began searching and called Dylan's parents. By 1:20 p.m., Dylan's father Jason arrived and started combing the neighborhood. But here's where the first inconsistency emerges. Police records show they weren't contacted until 1:45 p.m., nearly 30 minutes after Dylan's disappearance. The family insists they called earlier. This gap in the timeline has never been fully explained. Within hours, Dylan's rubber boots were found in 2 separate locations along Leper Brook, a fast-moving stream about 100 meters from the grandmother's house. The right boot was discovered first, followed by the left boot downstream. This discovery shaped the primary theory, that Dylan had somehow wandered to the brook and fallen in, being swept away by the strong current. But experienced search and rescue workers have questioned this theory. The boots were found relatively close together, yet no other trace of Dylan was ever discovered. Some experts argue that if Dylan had fallen into the brook, other items of clothing should have been found, particularly given the extensive underwater searches that followed. A second theory emerged from the geographical layout of the area. The grandmother's backyard backs onto a wooded area with multiple paths and trails. Some investigators suggested Dylan could have wandered into the woods, becoming disoriented in terrain that would be challenging even for an adult to navigate. But this theory also has its inconsistencies. Tracking dogs never picked up a scent trail leading into the woods, and given Dylan's age and size, covering significant distance through dense woodland in such a short time seems improbable. Perhaps the most controversial theory arose from surveillance footage recovered from nearby businesses. Several cameras captured unusual vehicle movement in the area during the critical time frame. One particular vehicle, described as a dark-colored SUV, was seen leaving the area at high speed around 1:30 p.m. Despite police following up on this lead, the vehicle and its driver were never identified. The timing of the search response has also raised questions. While initial responders arrived quickly, the full-scale search operation wasn't launched until nearly 3 hours after Dylan's disappearance. Search and rescue experts note that the first 3 hours are crucial in missing persons cases, especially involving young children. Adding to the complexity is the weather conditions that day. It had been raining, making the ground slippery and the brook's current stronger than usual. Yet the rain also should have made tracking easier, as footprints would have been visible in the mud. No such prints were ever found. The placement of Dylan's boots remains one of the most perplexing elements. Water current experts who studied Leper Brook noted that the location and position of the boots didn't align with typical water flow patterns. This has led some investigators to question whether the boots were deliberately placed rather than carried by the current. Police interviews reveal another troubling detail. Several residents reported hearing a child crying around 1:40 p.m., but in an area opposite to where the search was initially focused. By the time this information was properly investigated, crucial hours had passed. Police maintain that all evidence points to an accidental drowning. They note that spring rainfall had made the brook particularly dangerous that day, with water levels higher than normal. The force of the current could have quickly swept a small child downstream toward the Salmon River and ultimately into the Cobequid Bay. But Dylan's parents have never fully accepted this explanation. They point to the canine evidence, the boot locations, and the missing 40 minutes in the initial response. They've hired private investigators who've developed alternative theories, including the possibility that Dylan wandered further than initially believed before encountering trouble. The case has also drawn attention from criminal profilers, who note certain patterns common to child abduction cases. The location, a quiet residential area with quick access to major roads, and the time of day align with other documented cases. However, no concrete evidence has ever emerged to support this theory. Nearly 3 years later, Dylan's disappearance remains unsolved. The official investigation remains open, but active leads have dwindled. His parents continue their own search, haunted by unanswered questions and theories that seem to create more questions than answers. What happened in those crucial first minutes? How did a 3-year-old boy vanish so completely in such a short time? Why were his boots the only items ever found? These questions echo through the streets of Truro, a reminder that sometimes the most devastating mysteries are those closest to home. The case of Dylan Ehler stands as a haunting reminder of how quickly a normal day can turn tragic, and how the search for truth can be as elusive as it is essential. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and give us your thoughts in the comments.